Okay, so picture this. It's like 2:43 a.m., maybe last Tuesday, and you can't sleep. Instead of, raiding the fridge, you find yourself typing something, pretty personal, into ChatGPT. And boom, half a second later, there's this reply. It's warm, it's reassuring, maybe gives you a little mindfulness prompt. And the kicker, no bill, zero cost. The tiny moment, that almost secret interaction you might have had. It actually points to something massive happening. Because really, for the first time ever, the cheapest, most available ear isn't human. It's code. It's an algorithm. I mean, the whole idea of an AI therapist, it used to sound like sci-fi, right? But now, it's real. People are searching for AI therapists online more than they search for find a human therapist near me. Think about that.
It's fascinating, really. And how people see this phenomenon totally depends on their background. Psychologists, they immediately see the massive gap in actual human mental health care. There just aren't enough therapists. Engineers might look at it and go, well, this is just the next step in user interfaces, a new way to get support. Makes sense, technically. But ethicists, they're waving these huge red flags. And actually, there's this recent Duke University study, Kwesi Kau Mankanda and Imami Naini, from just this July 2025. They boiled down the whole unease into one really powerful sentence, basically. Participants conflated the human-like empathy exhibited by LLMs with human-like accountability. And that confusion, that's what we're digging into today. Why does it matter so much for you? What happens when something feels warm and understanding, but doesn't actually come with any real protection?
Right. So let's unpack that appeal. Why are so many of us turning to, well, the robot couch?
Oh,
What's the pull? Because we know the alternative, human therapy. It's hard to find. It's often really expensive. And let's be honest, there's still a stigma for a lot of people. I saw a stat. The average U.S. county has only one licensed counselor for every 500 people. One.
exactly. And AI just waltzes into that gap with what you could call the convenience trifecta. First, it's always on, 2 a.m., 3 p.m., doesn't matter. Second, it's usually free or way, way cheaper than $100 an hour, right? And third, maybe the biggest one, zero friction. No intake forms, no scheduling calls, no awkward small talk. You just start talking or typing. So for stuff like, can't sleep, dealing with grief, even just those Sunday night blues, it's a really easy first step.
Yeah, but it's more than just being easy, isn't it? I mean, these things are surprisingly good at sounding human.
Yeah.
What makes them feel so, I don't know, personal?
It's what some people call uncanny fluency. These AI models, they're trained on just unbelievable amounts of text. Billions of sentences. So they can pick up your tone, they can mirror it, they can remember things you talked about last week. They can even suggest like a breathing exercise using perfect emojis.
Ah, fluent emojis. I like that.
Right. And honestly, sometimes that feels more responsive, more tailored than maybe a generic employee assistance program you call into. It creates this feeling of connection, even though, well, we know what's really under the hood.
Okay, so that connection brings us right back to that Duke study. They talked to 21 adults in the U.S., people who are actively using chatbots, ChatGPT, Pi, Replica, Gemini for emotional support.
Yeah.
And what these people said, why they used them, what they assumed, it's really revealing and, frankly, a bit worrying.
Oh, definitely. Some of the quotes really stand out. You had one person, P1, who was still pretty wary, said something like, I muted my mic and still don't trust it. So some skepticism there.
But then contrast that with P17. This person lives somewhere rural and just laid it out. There's no therapist in my rural county. The AI is it.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, it wasn't just easy. It was literally the only option they felt they had. And then there was P21 who said, I assumed HIPAA covered me. Guess not. That one hits hard. It shows the gap between assumption and reality.
Yeah, and that taps into something fundamental, anthropomorphism. We humans, we just love to project human qualities onto things. We do it with our pets, our cars, definitely anything with a reply button.
Right, like naming your Roomba.
Exactly. And these large language models, they turbocharge that tendency. Their ability to mimic empathy, to sound like they get you, it's so convincing it can actually trigger like oxytocin releases in our brains. The same stuff we get from real human connection. It's a powerful neurological trick almost.
Okay, and this is where the Duke study really raises the alarm for you, the user.
Mm-hmm.
Because that feeling, that simulated empathy, it doesn't come with simulated ethics. The people in this study, they consistently overtrusted these chatbots. They were sharing deep trauma, stuff they admitted they wouldn't even tell their own family. And they almost never thought about where that data was going, how long it was kept. Some even had this idea that companies like OpenAI had, like teams of therapists reading the logs, which is just not the case.
Right. And here's the really telling part. When they first asked the participants, is AI therapy ethical? Most were like, yeah, sure. But then they learned that there's no U.S. federal law, none, that makes a general chatbot protect your personal health disclosures like a doctor has to. And that's when you saw the shift, this kind of dawning realization, maybe even a bit of terror.
It perfectly illustrates what the researchers called intangible vulnerability. Think about it. If someone steals your credit card number, the harm feels real, tangible. You can picture them buying stuff. But sharing your deepest fears or anxieties with a bot, the harm feels fuzzy, abstract. Where's the immediate danger? And that blind spot is the vulnerability. You pour your heart out at 3 a.m., and those words could end up somewhere else, used in ways you never imagined.
And those ways aren't just theoretical, they're potentially very real. Imagine employers, insurance companies, data brokers getting access to transcripts suggesting depression or addiction struggles, or even a pregnancy you haven't disclosed. Could that data be used to deny you a job? Or jack up your insurance premium? Absolutely. So the study's point is crucial. AI therapy privacy isn't some abstract philosophical issue. It's actuarial. It's about risk calculation based on your most private thoughts.
Okay, so if the risks are that real, who's supposed to be watching the store? Who guards this data? When you talk to people about trusting AI with this stuff, you kind of see three main groups emerge. You've got the self-reliance crew, the ones who are like, okay, I'll use a fake name, maybe a VPN, hope for the best. Then there's the corporate trust crew who kind of shrug and figure, OpenAI has bigger problems than my little anxieties. And then you have the regulation dreamers pinning their hopes on lawmakers eventually catching up and fixing it all.
Yeah, but what all three groups often overlook is a really basic human behavior fact. Most people don't fiddle with settings. Strong privacy defaults are critical because, as the study showed, even when participants were shown the button to stop saving chats, most never clicked it.
Too much friction.
Exactly. If protecting yourself takes 10 extra clicks in a settings menu you've never opened, forget it. Most people just won't do it.
Which leads us straight into this policy vacuum. It feels like generative AI just exploded onto the scene, and lawmakers are still trying to figure out what it even is.
Totally. It's like trying to regulate cheetahs using laws written for napping house cats.
Right. So the FDA, they regulate medical devices, but ChatGPT says, nope, not a medical device, just research. And iPay, the big health privacy law, that applies to covered entities, hospitals, doctors, insurance companies. It doesn't typically cover a random chatbot app or even the big AI companies providing the general models. So you have this huge gray area where these AI therapy tools are operating without the usual safety nets you expect for health information.
So maybe it helps to just put it side by side.
Yeah.
AI therapist versus human therapist. What are the real differences?
Yeah.
Response time, AI, under a second, anytime. Human, maybe 50 minutes, once a week if you're lucky.
Big difference there.
Huge. Empathy.ai. It's a language trick, an illusion. Human. It's nervous system to nervous system, that gut feeling, actual presence. Liability. AI, basically none. Human, licensed, insured, ethically bound, potentially suable.
Accountability.
Right. Cost.ai. Free to maybe $20 a month. Human. $100, $200, even $300 an hour. Memory.ai. Perfect recall. Remembers every word. Human. Fallible, context-dependent, but maybe that's good sometimes. And bias.ai learns from its massive data set, internet warts and all. Human. Filtered through training, supervision, ongoing learning, hopefully.
Wow. Laid out like that, it's pretty stark. AI wins hands down on cost and convenience. But the human therapist, it's a knockout win on accountability depth, that actual human connection.
Yeah.
Which brings up this kind of uncomfortable question. Will we as a society just accept a cheaper, always on, but ultimately inferior substitute? Because history suggests, maybe, yeah. Think about automated customer service lines or doing your taxes with software instead of an accountant. The AI therapist kind of fits that pattern, doesn't it? But the stakes here feel so much higher. It's not just about getting a refund. It's about your mental health.
And those stakes get even higher when you consider the bias inside the circuit. Remember, these LLMs learn from the internet. And the internet is. What's the internet? Full of wisdom, yes, but also garbage, prejudice, stereotypes. The Duke paper explicitly warns these models can give inaccurate, biased, or even harmful outputs about mental health. They shared an example. A participant of color asked for career advice and got this weirdly defeatist response.
Ouch.
Yeah. It basically echoed historical biases suggesting minorities should aim lower. And when that kind of bias is aimed at someone who's already feeling vulnerable, seeking help, that's not just bad data, that's potential harm.
And this can create these trust loops the researchers talked about. It makes sense. You try the bot, maybe tentatively share something small, you get back this surprisingly articulate, maybe even soothing reply. So you relax a bit, you share something more personal next time, and each time it goes well, you trust it a little more.
No.
And what the Duke team found was people who started out carefully checking privacy settings. After a few good sessions, they often just stopped. The feeling of being heard kind of overrode the caution, which is another subtle risk.
And that loop makes the danger of hallucinated help even more acute. This is really where the rubber meets the road on safety concerns. This is where it gets potentially dangerous. Imagine you tell a bot you're trying to taper off medication, like, say, benzodiazepine. The AI, with complete confidence, might just make up a dangerous tapering schedule, hallucinate it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And if you're feeling desperate, maybe you don't have easy access to a doctor, you might actually follow that advice with potentially catastrophic results. There's no universal safety net right now that catches that kind of specific, harmful hallucination every single time. And this gets back to the core empathy problem machines just can't solve yet. AI empathy is syntactic. It's word patterns. It's not visceral. And AI doesn't have mirror neurons. It doesn't get that gut punch when it hears pain in your voice.
It can't read the room or the silence.
Exactly. It doesn't know when just being quiet is the most helpful thing. It can't read your posture, the tension in your shoulders. Until AI can do that, and crucially, until it can be held legally accountable like a human professional, the idea of it fully replacing complex human therapy, it's still science fiction.
Okay, so things look a bit grim on the accountability front. But we're not just here to point out problems. Let's talk solutions. What can you, the listener, do right now if you find yourself turning to these tools? Based on the research, we can pull together a kind of safety playbook for the reluctant user. First tip, use fictional me prompts. Start your chat with something like, okay, imagine a character named Alex is feeling. That adds a layer of separation, makes it harder to link directly back to you. Second, strip out specifics. Instead of last Tuesday meeting in Dallas, say a recent work meeting, generalize time and place. Third, and this is a big one, actually go into the settings and toggle chat history off. Look for options like do not save or delete history. Make it a habit. Fourth, have a personal escalation scale. Like if you're rating your mood and it drops below, say, a 7 out of 10, that's your signal. Time to reach out to a real human, a friend, a crisis line, a therapist if you have one. And fifth, consider exporting your chats sometimes. Just copy-paste them. You can even share them with your actual human therapist, might give them valuable insights.
And for the people making policy. The Duke team had some concrete suggestions, too, focused on harm reduction. Number one, just-in-time nudges. If a user types something clearly indicating suicidal thoughts, I want to end it all, the bot must immediately provide a crisis hotline number, not just, a calming diff.
Right. Direct intervention.
Direct, immediate. Second, make ephemeral logs the default. Meaning, chats get automatically deleted after maybe 30 days unless you specifically choose to save them longer. Opt in, not opt out for retention. And third, bring in some lightweight third-party audits. Think something like the PCI compliance banks use for credit cards. Just a basic check to ensure companies are actually following their own privacy policies. These aren't silver bullets, but they're achievement steps, much faster than waiting for some perfect, all-encompassing AI law.
And what about the people building these tools? The developers, the AI companies. Are there ways to design them more ethically from the ground up? The sources we looked at mentioned several design patterns for ethical deployment. Things builders could do now without waiting for laws, like minimizing data collection, maybe store numerical representations, embeddings instead of the raw text of your chats. Much harder to reconstruct. Using zero-knowledge encryption, so even the company's own engineers can't read the stored conversations.
That's key.
Yeah. Using techniques like differential privacy when training models, so individual user inputs get blurred and can't be traced back. Having clear, live dashboards showing users exactly where their data goes. Updating consent forms regularly, maybe every 30 days. And making delete my data a really big, obvious button.
Make it easy to say no.
Exactly. And doing regular red team exercises, basically. Hiring people to try and break the privacy protections, find the weak spots before bad actors do. Bake privacy in, don't just bolt it on later.
And for policymakers specifically, some potential field notes emerged. They could start by formally defining a digital therapeutic conversation as a specific class of data that needs special protection, similar to how medical records are treated now. They could require explicit opt-in before any mental health-related chats are used to train future AI models. Your private thoughts shouldn't become training data unless you clearly agree. And that mandate for crisis line handoffs within, say, 2 message turns if suicidal intent is detected. That seems like a really crucial, concrete rule. Again, the theme is aim for achievable wins. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good here. Get some protections locked in.
And we're actually seeing some examples of how this can play out in the real world. Companies learning lessons, sometimes the hard way. There was Startup A, they made a journaling bot. Sounds nice. But then users found it was inserting ads like for sleep tea right in the middle of their emotional reflections.
Oh, terrible idea.
Right. They had a 65% uninstall rate.
Yeah.
Lesson. Don't try to monetize people's pain while they're expressing it. Build trust first. Then there's Clinic B. They integrated GPT-4 into their secure patient portal. But smartly, they limited what it could do, whitelisted prompts, and only stored usage stats, like token counts, not the actual conversations.
To better.
Yeah. Patients got helpful tools, like reframing negative thoughts. And because the clinic controlled the environment, their liability insurance actually approved it after an audit. And one more of 5, a nonprofit set up a free AI therapy kiosk in a library. Crucially, they configured it to wipe all chat logs clean every single night.
Ephemeral by default.
Exactly. It helped ease the load on staff, provided some support, but without hoarding sensitive data long term. These show it's possible to innovate and prioritize privacy. So let's bring it all together. This AI therapist thing, it's not sci-fi anymore, it's here. It's already part of how millions of people cope day to day, night to night. And the deal feels simple, doesn't it? You get instant, seemingly empathetic support. All it costs is a few digital crumbs of your data.
But that's the catch we really need you to grasp. Those seemingly harmless crumbs. They can be gathered, analyzed, rebaked into detailed profiles, into predictions about your future behavior, into insurance premiums, things you might never even know about. That Duke paper puts it bluntly. Addressing intangible vulnerability requires reframing mental health data as equally vulnerable to misuse, as vulnerable as your financial data.
So what does that mean for you personally? It means you need to start thinking about that late night chat with an AI, the same way you think about typing in your credit card number online. Be conscious of what you're sharing and where it might go, because that next sentence you type, it could become part of a digital future for you that you never signed up for.
Look, we all want the benefits of technology. Convenience, innovation, they're powerful forces. But we shouldn't have to trade our fundamental privacy or consent for them, especially not when we're feeling vulnerable. We need to figure out how to steer this incredibly powerful AI technology so that it supports our well-being and respects our autonomy. That's the collective task.
So maybe the simplest takeaway, the one action item. Before you pour your heart out to that chatbot next time, just take 5 seconds. Click on the privacy settings. See what they say. It's a small step, but it's a start towards more conscious use.
And maybe next time you're awake in the middle of the night about to open that app, just pause and ask yourself a couple of quick questions. 1, am I truly okay with the transcript of this conversation potentially existing forever? 2, is there a human I could reach out to instead? Maybe just leave a voicemail for a friend. And 3, does this AI's reply feel genuinely insightful or just kind of generic?
Consent isn't a one-time click. It's an ongoing awareness. And asking questions is how you sharpen that awareness, that blurry line between help and harm. It only stays blurry if we stop paying attention.
Sleep well, stay curious, and treat every AI therapist like a bright intern. Helpful, tireless, and never the final word on your mind.